I'm sure we've all wondered at some point, what would happen if you tried to fight two bosses at once in the Calamity mod? I wondered too, so today we're going to answer that question in the form of a playthrough, of course. This playthrough will have no restrictions, except all bosses get doubled, and all minions that the boss summons get doubled too, leading to quadruple minions in total. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of tea, and let's get straight into this. So with no delay, I get to work chopping down some trees, organising my inventory, building the NPC prison, you know, just some good old early game stuff. Now my plan is I'm gonna go dive straight headfirst into a cave and see what stuff I can pick up. So I began adventuring to the right side of the world, and I found a jungle really close to spawn, so I was like, went back home. After that I headed off to the left side, where I found a pretty good cave entrance, so I decided to explore that. And this is where I found one of the glaring issues of the mod I was using. Multi-spawn does not work properly with worms, let's just say that. And even after fixing the issue, it decided to follow me home, so I had to save an exit. After the first death of the playthrough, I went back and crafted some copper armor, which is actually really good in Calamity mod. After diving back into the caves, I got lucky and found a glowing mushroom biome, but then I got brutally touched by some bats, so I went to go hide in this cave. I found a band of regeneration, almost got full boxed by a skeleton, and then I found a gravitation potion. Now you know what comes next. I went straight back to base and I went flying to, well, no, falling? I found the absolute jackpot of iron, plus a life crystal, and barely not enough amethyst to make a hook. After finding the big boy planetoid, I went straight back up there and grabbed all the stuff I need, specifically for the exomex later on. I placed down all the planetoid goods, then I went venturing to the left side so I can find the sulphurous sea. Now the two big reasons I want to go here are golden fishing rod, abyssal amulet, need I say more? Now to get the golden fishing rod, you simply need to free the angler from one of these goofy crocodiles, then immediately feed him back to said goofy crocodile. And luckily the terrain generated perfectly in my favour, which made this way easier than it could have been. After moving some fellow townspeople in, I bought the sulphur pylon. And with my golden fishing rod in hand and a pocket full of worms, I got to work. Luckily, not too long after I started fishing, I managed to reel in a frog leg, which I was pretty surprised by. And then seconds later, I managed to get a reaver shark as well. After literal minutes of being here, I already got what I came for, but I decided to push my luck anyways. And it was totally worth it. I managed to pick up a swordfish as well, which should be pretty good. I tossed my sweet new gear into the magic storage, and I head right to try and find the desert. After arrival at the destination, I place down 2 houses so I can get the desert pylon. I begin my descent into the desert cave with many modded pickaxe upgrades, and I die many times as well. The first of which being to a rogue cactus ballsack which decided to ignore immunity frames. The desert then decided to lure me back in with classic gambling addiction techniques, as, you know, you can't win if you don't play. After a while of exploring, I managed to find this really cool cave that's very open and connected to the jungle as well. While everything was going too well, I managed to die in a centimetre of lava. I then got ganged up on by a skeleton using double. Then I got forcefully pushed into some lava by an antlion. I got isekai'd by an antlion swarmer going 300 over the speed limit. This was just pure tomfoolery on my part. I have nothing to say about this. After a calamton of deaths, I finally made it to the sunken sea and ore excavated the living out of these things. built even more houses for even more pylons. Unfortunately it wasn't nighttime, so I decided to go look for the desert shrine. Found the desert shrine and got the Luxor's gift, which, even though it synergizes really well with copper armor, I'm probably never going to use it. After the moon finally showing itself and almost drowning the merchant, I finally laid hands on the sunken pylon. After obtaining some pretty decent gear, I decided to conjure up an arena in the desert. Feeling as cocky as a Discord moderator, I decided to take him on and let's see. Fuck. Before I challenge the desert scourge, I'm gonna need some more mobility accessories. Also, I picked up 30 sake for the tipsy debuff. In one of my recent mining trips, I managed to find a teleportation potion, and it took me to a really perfect spot for the cavern pylon. Unfortunately, it wasn't nighttime, so I decided to explore the place while I waited, which I'm very glad I did, because I found 5 golden chests inside of one glowing mushroom biome. After some cave exploring filler, I went back to the 2 houses, because it was finally nighttime. I bought the pylon, and then went back to base. My stupid R then fought Desert Scourge again, with no double jump and no wings. I wonder how that went. I even went back for round 2, and I managed to get him to below half health, but then he fucked me up as soon as he came back. Luckily I found some gravitation potions during the cavern exploration filler arc, so I took to the skies again and tried to find some fledgling wings. With my new shiny balloon, I felt like I could destroy the world with my bare hands. And yeah, I don't know what happened here either, leading to some pretty funky situations. I sure do hope this doesn't become a problem later on. Not gonna lie, I completely annihilated this desert fucking worm. So, anyways, let's move on to the Eye of Cthulhu. After a good night's rest, I remembered that Desert Scourge actually dropped items, so I went ahead and made myself a new sword, then teleported straight into the sunken sea to go and bully some clams. The clams in question didn't actually spawn for quite a while, but I forgot I had the multi-spawn mod on, so we're fine too. After a couple minutes of slapping fish around though, we did eventually get some to spawn. It was actually pretty fun trying to fight two at the same time. It wasn't too long before I managed to strike down both of these big boy clams. I imprisoned the literal king of the sea and brought a mediocre weapon from him. After a sausage load of silliness at the sunken sea, I set my sights onto the sulphurous sea in hopes of obtaining the depths crusher. Clipped by a jellyfish. Okay, so let's forget about that. I managed to locate a school of the fish I needed to kill in order to obtain this beautiful, splendid weapon. So I used wall hacks and annihilated all of them. It was finally time for me to challenge the Eye of Cthulhu, so I used my epic gear to slaughter some giant flying eyeballs, and then crafted the summon. Well, it wasn't a bad first attempt, but Rome wasn't built in a single attempt. Now this was nowhere near one of the hardest bosses in this challenge, but it was still a pretty decent step up from the Desert Scourge. The sheer amount of projectiles on the screen, and the minions, which get quadrupled in total, eventually overwhelmed me, but for a second attempt, this wasn't too bad at all. I nearly killed one of the eyes. I realised I needed more mobility, so I crafted myself a sandstorm in a bottle. I then bought 30 pad thai from the Maveling Turchant, and the following night the eyes decided to show themselves. I often hear people say, third time's the charm. I'm not really one to believe in superstition, but I had a good feeling about this fight. this very night, I'm gonna slice these two giant flying sucky eyeballs into dog biscuits. Looking back at the footage, it's actually pretty funny how these eyeballs managed to barely dodge that falling star. Honestly, that was a very solid fight. I wasn't expecting much from the Eye of Cthulhu, but it was pretty. Let's try 4 of them. Okay, so I thought it'd be funny if I tried to fight 4 at the same time, and I'm not even gonna lie, I actually got pretty far into the fight, but 4 just seems impossible. Yeah, okay, let's just move on to Crabulon. I crafted the Despacito sprout and then got to work excavating the mushroom arena. Also bought some totally legal boom shurikens. I cleared the general area, I built a square shaped arena with some platforms and campfires, then I summoned in the mushroom boy. Remember, not only the bosses get doubled, but the minions they spawn too, so they get quadrupled in total. Yeah, this is going to be pretty fun. I did give the Storm Surge a go for a little bit, then I realised it's absolute buttocks, so I went back to the Depths Crusher. And while that attempt was actually quite a lot better than the last one, it still wasn't nearly enough, so I needed to experiment with my loadout. I tried again with the Luxor's gift, as the sandstorm in a bottle wasn't precise enough to dodge the mushrooms, but I didn't get very far. My next idea was to swap out the Luxor's gift for the Amidius pendant. I thought this would be pretty useful, as it summons things from the sky that could take out the little mushroom fuckers, but it was to no avail. Little known secret with the lead armor in Calamity mod is that it gives you knockback immunity, so I tried to see if that was any good. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. I did however have a plan B, so I went to go get the materials to make that plan a reality. After a 4-day power nap, goblins pulled up to my hood, so I proceeded to back out the Depths Crusher. The goblin ops quickly fell to the onslaught of fish? What even is the Depths Crusher made of? I once again dived headfirst into some caves in order to find the Goblin Tinkerer. After having a prank played on me by World Generation, I decided to look for him in the jungle instead. I figured if I went to the jungle I could maybe get some jungle armor and some— never mind, he's right there. After crafting the Spectre Boots and Mana Flower, I guess it's finally time to reveal my plan B. I'm gonna try and fish up the Sparkling Empress in the Sunken Sea, cause that weapon would shred Crabulon. I would explain exactly what it does, but just see for yourself. Now while this weapon does do considerably less damage to Crabulon himself, It absolutely shreds the minions. Now while the fight did go on for much longer, I barely got his health down, so I tried pairing the Abyssal Amulet with the Sparkling Empress. I also maxed out my life, crafted some regen potions, and put some heart lanterns and sunflowers inside the arena. This combination of upgrades did help me out quite a bit, but it still wasn't enough. I decided to remove all the platforms so that I could have some more headroom and all the hearts that get dropped stay on the ground floor. This is actually pretty effective, but it was slightly harder to dodge all the airborne mushrooms. I tried switching to the Victide Mage armor set. I decided screw it, I'm switching to the melee armor again. I swapped out the Luxor's gift for a band of regen. This was just absolutely brutal, but there's no way I'm ever giving up. I was considering switching to a summoner melee hybrid, but then this happened. I finally beat this crabby turd of a bullet hell boss, only to get some even crabbier rewards. And yes, I tried to fight 4 of them. And yes, I died. Now that Crab Turd was dead, I decided to take a nice relaxing trip to the jungle to get some jungle armor. Crafted this scrumptious boy up and then headed straight to the corruption to take down the Eater of Worlds. Now this is where the Sparkling Empress really shines. I did get it for Crabulon just to try something new, but this is what I really wanted it for. Easiest boss of this whole playthrough. I feel bad for the poor guy. Anyways, I'm going to take on the Brain of Cthulhu because I'm doing every boss. And I haven't forgotten about King Slime, don't worry. I also went for a quick go on the Hive mine, but it didn't go too well. Mainly because of the spitballs that come at you from absolutely nowhere. So yeah, I think I'm going to save this boss for later. I made the new world, then headed to the Crimson so I couldn't fuck up the Brain of Cthulhu. The Sparkling Empress still absolutely shreds every boss. For the first attempt, I was pretty surprised I managed to get to the second phase. But not long after that, I realised dodging simply wouldn't be an option. In simple terms, I was playing Uno and this guy was playing 4D chess. definitely nowhere near bad for the first one, but I needed a better weapon for the second phase. So after microwaving these spongy little flesh nuggets to death with a shiny fish, I then used the Abyssal Crusher for the second phase, which did a bit more damage. However, to dodge the final few thousand HP, I needed to either become God or absolutely nuke this brain. So after a few more attempts with a similar outcome, I hatched up a little plan. I'd use the jungle armor with the Abyssal Amulet for the first phase to microwave all the creepers, then I'd switch to silver armor with a more DPS loadout for the second phase. The silver armor and damaging accessories did help me quite a lot, and the fungal clump helped me heal when I was close to the brain. I did get pretty stupidly close to dying, but then all of a sudden one of them popped. Then not long after that the second one got put in a Tesco's beef mince pack. Before I did anything I thought it'd be funny to try the Perforators, but then I remembered the interactions with multi-spawn and worm bosses. I did fix this issue though, and then give the Perforators another go straight after, as it seemed like I could actually beat them with pre-evil boss gear. Sadly though, the only way to fix the worms being buggy was to make them not duplicate at all. It seemed like the Depth Crusher was the perfect match against this boss. It had decent enough piercing to take out the worms, and it could hit both of the hives at the same time. Plus the fungal clump was basically permanently latched onto the hive. Even the big ass final worm didn't stand a single chance against me, and once I had both of them down, the boss was looking like a dog toy when you rip off all the limbs. Now I'm gonna save the Perforators gear for later, as I want to take down the hive mind first. And yes, I did 10 of them. Went about as well as you'd expect. Moving on, since I'd game ended both of the evil bosses, I could use the gear from them now, so I got the best armor in the game, Crimson Armor. I also crafted the Vile Feeder Staff, looked for hive blobs, got bored, stole the summon from another world, and then summoned the boss. These spitballs were impossible to dodge, unless you had Gojo 6 Eyes, Danger Sense, Ultra Instinct, Neo from the Matrix. But I was like, screw this, I gave him another go. Unfortunately, after taking down 10% of his health, he sneezed on me and I died. After a couple more attempts with the same gear, I decided to try again, but with walls. However, the hive mind doesn't believe in walls. I even tried the defensive mode of the Brittle Star, but that got me absolutely nowhere. I had a theory in the back of my mind over these past 2 attempts, so I decided to give it a shot. And holy shampoo, it actually worked. Who would win, Spitball of Death or H2O? Well, I didn't win either, but to be fair I wasn't geared up for the water, so I decided to gear myself up for the water. I then went on this stupidly long filler episode of trying to find the Effigy of Decay, but for some reason it wasn't in my world, so then I had to do a whole acid rain to craft it. But anyways, ignoring that, I got the Effigy of Decay, I built an underwater arena in the Sulphurous Sea, and then I got to work. Fighting underwater was actually pretty nice, cause the Victide armor makes you move stupidly fast. I eventually got both of them into their second phase, which is when the fight became kind of hard to manage. Unfortunately though, I did die eventually, so I crafted the Arctic diving gear for what is functionally infinite flight underwater, and then replaced my wings with a band of regeneration. I built a mini corruption in the sulphurous sea for easy access, and then summoned this boy in. Swapping to the Arctic diving gear had the side effect of making my horizontal speed slower, but it was much easier to dodge now. This was the extra push I needed to take the first one down. And not long after, the second one came tumbling down with it. Now I've game ended both the Perforators and the Hive mind, I can finally use their gear. I'm gonna try and play by no-hit rules for this playthrough, but if a boss is stupidly hard, I may have to use progression skips. I finally had some time to relax after killing all the bosses, so I mined some area light and crafted the skyline wings and the turbulence. I felt like I had a pretty good shot at Queen Bee at this point, so I went straight to the Vernal Pass and summoned her in. And this is when I realised Queen Bee's bees have the same problem as Hive Mind's balls. They spawn in right in front of you and just annihilate you. I was running off about 4 hours of sleep at this point, so I felt like an old man getting jumped outside of Tesco's. Needless to say, I died. I realised at this point I still hadn't found the shimmer, so I went straight there to craft some permanent upgrades. I made some Tesla potions, which are basically Calamity's budget inferno potions. Then I went for another fight. Now I wasn't too sure if the Tesla potions were working or not. The buff icon was in the top left corner, but maybe I had the visuals disabled. Either way, the placebo effect is a powerful thing. My damage was great, and my mobility was good, but the overwhelming amount of bees I still couldn't keep up with. And this was just heartbreaking. Although I've proved to myself in the Crabulon fight, I'm not one to give up easily. I figured it was finally time to introduce the world to an old friend of mine. The almighty, the all-powerful, tracking disc. In all seriousness though, this weapon is absolutely bonkers against anything. It dealt with the bees better than the turbulence, and even did more damage to both the queen bees. But still, this wasn't quite enough to get me through the fight. What I was dealing with here was a skill issue. I gave her another go, then performed significantly worse, likely due to my lack of sleep. I had an idea to use bubble blocks filled with lava to take care of the bees, but then I remembered bubble block hard mode only. I still needed something new though, so I crafted a dank staff instead of the vile feeder staff. This is when I also had the epiphany that I still have like 70% of the arena that I haven't even used. Sometimes in life, it's not what you have that limits you, but it's your beliefs that limit you. Unfortunately though, I still hadn't fixed the skill issue. I tried again with the turbulence, but then I remembered why I crafted the tracking disc. In search of something new, I decided to spec my equipment fully into Summoner, but keep using the tracking disc as a support type of weapon. The increased full speed from the aerospec armor was a bit jarring at first, but I got used to it and it managed to help me dodge all the bees. With the catastrophic combination of my tracking disc, summons and fungal clump, my power was overwhelming. I felt like an anime character when the opening song plays. I was the predator, no Diddy, and Queen Bee was the prey. It was almost like I was born just to kill Queen Bee in this very moment. I descended beyond my regular capabilities. I was going beyond, plus ultra. I felt like Yuji against Mahito. I felt like Tanjiro against Gyutaro. I felt like Eren Yeager against the Warhammer Titan. I felt like Sung Jin Woo against pretty much everybody. I was gonna beat this bee's fucking ass. And in that very moment, with one final burst of adrenaline and willpower, I had taken the bitch down. And for my hard work, I was rewarded with basically nothing. So yeah, anyways, I moved straight on to Skeletron. I already had some kind of arena in the Sulphurous Sea, so I figured I'd just fight him there. I did smash his skull in a decent amount on the first attempt, but eventually I kicked the lava bucket. Immediately after that failure, I tried again with a new approach, using the Turbulence and Dank Staff instead of the Tracking Disc and Violator Staff. This time I did manage to get him past his second hand phase, but I still died. I knew I was sorely lacking in mobility, so I went back home to craft some accessories. The frog leg and honey tube. Unfortunately though, the issue at hand was still a skill issue. I realised the aerospec armour just wasn't cutting it, so I switched back to the crimson armour for more overall damage and some very nice life regen. After being a dumbass and almost dying in the first 5 seconds of the fight, I locked in. I felt like the aerospec armor was doing more bad than good in this fight, as I was used to dodging the skulls without the extra full speed. Skeleboner was getting really peed off at me, 1 because I called him that name, and 2 because he was on his last legs of health. Like a dying animal, his primal instincts, he just threw himself at me, but I dodged every single attack, every single skull. One of them went down. I was completely untouchable. Never mind. And there we go. This chapter may have came to a close, but this journey is far from over. There would be so many harder challenges for me to face in the future, so much more yet to come. Anyways, thanks for watching people, I spent quite a while on this video. The next one will be out in the next 2 to 4 weeks. Yeah, anyways, see ya, stay blessed.